Hello, this is Yogeshwar 7000 again, and I'm back with my series on nakshatras. So we have so far covered, I think, five nakshatras, six nakshatras. We covered Ashwini, we covered Bharini, we covered Kritika, we covered Rohini, we covered Mrigasira, and we did cover Ardra nakshatra in our last video, and today we are going to be talking about Ardra Nakshatra, which is the sixth nakshatra, not the nakshatra itself because we already covered that, but the four paras or the four divisions of Ardra Nakshatra. As we know that Ardra covers a distance of, just like all nakshatras, 13 degrees and 20 minutes, and it covers a distance of 6 degrees, covers a distance from 6 degrees and 41 minutes through 20 degrees of Gemini, and that's 13 degrees and 20 minutes. And we discussed what are the characteristics, what are the symbols of Ardra, and what are the positives, what are the career interests, what are the negatives. So we covered overall the nakshatra, but we did not talk about the four paras. As you know that every nakshatra is further subdivided into four divisions, or paras as it is called in Sanskrit, and each division covers a distance of 3 degrees and 20 minutes. So 3 degrees and 20 minutes times 4 is 13 degrees and 20 minutes. So the first para for Ardra nakshatra is ruled by Jupiter, and that spans a distance of 6 degrees and 41 minutes through 10 degrees of Gemini. So as we know, the ruler of Gemini in this nakshatra is Mercury, and the ruling planet of this nakshatra itself is Rahu, and then this para is ruled by the planet Jupiter. So you have to take into consideration all these three factors. And when we talk about the career interests and even the characteristics, as we know that people with Ardra nakshatra are mainly ruled, and their characteristics are Rahu-like, and Rahu functions extremely well, as I've discussed in my last video. It functions extremely well in Gemini because it gets exalted in Gemini. So this nakshatra itself is placed in Gemini, and the ruling planet is Rahu. So there's a strong connection there, and Rahu will behave as if it's in its own house. So all the characteristics of Rahu, like its mischievousness and its manipulation and its extreme desire for material objects, will be there. But now here we see that the first para, the first division, is ruled by Jupiter. So then the Jupiter characteristics come into play a little, of course, I would say. So overall the nakshatra is Mercury, and then the ruling planet of overall the zodiac is Mercury, and the ruling planet of the nakshatra is Rahu. But then some of the characteristics for people born in the first para will be Jupiter-like, which means that, well, they may not be as manipulative as Rahu. They may have the honesty and the straightforwardness of Jupiter, and even in relation to their career interests, they could be, of course, those characteristics Rahu-like will be there, but then they could choose careers, like, for example, just to give you an example, a teacher or a professor. So when we talked about the professions ruled by Ardra nakshatras, they are related to electrical engineering, software engineering. So you could relate people born in this para influenced by Jupiter as professors in those areas. So they could be, professors in computer science or electrical engineering, or they could be working with nuclear, or they could be working in the nuclear science area, but then in the area of teaching there. So please remember that this para also has a great influence. Every para has a great influence because it's ruled by a particular planet. The second para of Ardra Nakshatra spans a distance of 10 degrees and 1 minute through 13 degrees and 20 minutes of Gemini. So the second pada is, and the ruling planet of this pada, the second pada of Ardra Nakshatra, is Saturn. So what does Saturn represent? Saturn represents physical labor. So of course the basic characteristics of Rahu will definitely be there, but then you'll see here people more inclined towards physical labor rather than just the mind, because Rahu is all about the mind, and when Saturn comes into play here, then of course the body starts to move, and it's the profession's rule would be labor intensive, I could say. So relate to people with the same characteristics of Rahu, but then here a little more labor intensive, a little more straightforward, because Saturn also at times it's called a judge as per Vedic astrology. It's very straightforward, very honest, very hardworking. So here's a slight contradiction here between the characteristics of Rahu and Saturn, although Rahu and Saturn work very well together. So when you take into consideration the characteristics of people born in the second pada of Ardra Nakshatra, again look into the ruling zodiac sign where this nakshatra is placed, which is ruled by the planet Mercury, and then look at the nakshatra ruler, which is Rahu, and then here you see the pada ruler is Saturn. So it may be, you could see some shades of honesty and straightforwardness and hardworking, or somebody who wants to do labor, not just manipulate people with their minds. And the third pada of Ardra Nakshatra is ruled by Saturn again, so it's similar characteristics as the second pada, and the distance it spans is between 13 degrees and 21 minutes through 16 degrees and 40 minutes of Gemini. That's another 3 degrees and 20 minutes. And the fourth pada of Ardra Nakshatra spans a distance of 16 degrees and 41 minutes through 20 degrees of Gemini. And again, this fourth pada, just like the first pada, is ruled by Jupiter. So again, the characteristics of Jupiter may come into play, which may be slightly contradictory to what the basic nature of Rahu is and what the basic nature of Mercury is. But the choices and the characteristics could be oriented towards a little more of straightforwardness and honesty and teaching, because Jupiter is a teacher. So like I mentioned in the first pada, look at the professions, what characteristics, what professions Ardra Nakshatra people like to be. But then here, because of the influence of the planet Jupiter, they may become professors or teachers, not just plain influence of Rahu here, which talks about sales and analysts and thieves and chess players and detectives. No, they could be influenced by the planet Jupiter here, and it may mellow down the effects of the planet Rahu, which is which you could see more prominent in the second pada and the third pada, because Rahu works very well with Saturn. So the second pada and the third pada, of course, will have the basic characteristics of Rahu with a mixture of the influence of Saturn, and the first pada and the fourth pada will have the basic characteristics of Rahu with the influence of Jupiter. So hopefully you enjoyed this video on the four padas of Ardra Nakshatra. And in the meanwhile, I will recommend subscribe to my channel and check out my website. There is a link below. And I will see you soon. Goodbye.